All right, we're back. The Bolt Video Edition, number 2. I'm joined with Emily Griffen, Ammunition's Director of Product Design. Welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
We're going to talk about websites in the age of AI.
Yep.
Have a good conversation about what that means to brands and how we're thinking about that.
One thing I have heard recently, AI is the new UI. How do you feel about that?
It's interesting. I think as we talk about it as a team, I think where that comes to light for me is really around how users are interacting with content. I think very typical behavior now is we go to look anything up online, no matter what it is. It's almost always go to ChatGPT, ask a question, much like I used to with Google. And so I think AI is a new UI. I think it's kind of the UI I'm starting with, just from my own experience and even conversations we're having with clients, that I start there to get answers to questions, and then it pulls sources, and I might then use those sources, or it'll make a recommendation, narrows down 5 products I was looking at to 3, and then I go do my research on the brand website from there. But I think it's interesting. I think user behavior is what we're seeing is changing the most. Curious how you think about it.
It is typical now to go straight to an AI, a software or platform that will tell them the honest truth and what they're looking for. And I think that is something that companies can use as a model moving forward, using more direct, honest language so that they're actually speaking to a person as opposed to themselves in the organization, or tailored to selling themselves in a fluffy way.
Yep.
I think honest, direct language will be key.
The open AIs and everybody else will tell us that, they won't disclose what they're training on, but we can see the sources that it's coming up with. So it's fair to say we know it's at least training on the same content that we used to optimize from an SEO standpoint, right? And so there's still that base layer of content that needs to be accurate. But I think
Definitely.
What we're seeing is users are weighting what AI is telling them is true a lot higher than maybe we would have imagined.
Absolutely. And I think that leads to the importance of creating an experience when a user does come to your brand to show that your product is well thought out. It is meant for them.
So I think if I were just to, kind of, let's unpack it in a few different ways, right? So there's, as we've discussed, kind of how I get to the website. Then there's the value that website's playing, that's shifting a little bit from being perhaps at the point where I'm really doing that, let's call it the top of the funnel due diligence, right? Like just trying to decide, is this brand even capable of doing what I want, providing the product that I'm looking for, any of that. Like a lot of that work's already been done before I've gotten there. And
Right.
so now it's about how do I start to personalize that experience around, to use the car metaphor again, right? This is somebody who's looking for a large SUV, has these kinds of requirements. Odds are that manufacturer makes one of those. And so if I can start that experience and start to personalize that for that individual, where I'm starting, perhaps as the example, right? I'm starting with that product as the first point of reference when I get to that website. Maybe it goes without saying, but for me to get to that website, much like when we've always focused on SEO, now focused on AEO, which is how we show up inside these AI tools, that content's still got to live somewhere, right? Like I've still got to be able to feed that to those LLMs. They're still citing those sources. They're still pulling that content. So at a base level, trying to make this a little bit practical for any CMOs watching at home, there's still that base level of content that objectively needs to exist. We need to still be producing good, clean content. We still need to be building websites that are usable and best practices from a code compliance. All that stuff still important.
Yep.
But some of the selling has happened outside the traditional UI, and it's happening in AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
So capturing your audience to take that next step is going to be important.
Yep. But I would also argue an interesting benefit to that is it makes, I'm curious your take on this, it makes those websites in a way more sustainable, because if you can get comfortable knowing that the rules of engagement are constantly changing, you're not having to obsess over rethinking it every time a new innovation comes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just more, not only responsivity, but flexibility.
Yeah, for sure.
And creating systems that are very well thought out components that will expand, will contract in thought out ways that allow for different use cases, different screen sizes,
Yep.
et cetera, will be very important building blocks moving forward.
I think the interesting thing about the conversation we're having is some things are objectively true, which is this industry, it's one of the reasons I love it, is it's changing every single day. The technology changes every single day. At the end of the day, our job first and foremost is to understand the user,
Yep.
understand the customer, understand their behaviors, and then use the technologies that we are tasked with knowing how to use
To efficiently create those.
to help them solve their problems,
Yep.
right?
There is something to be said for minimalism, and a good design really considers everything and then removes every single thing other than the one or few things that are absolutely necessary. The goal is to not overwhelm a user. There is beauty in white space. There's beauty in form
Yep.
and function, and we don't have to overthink those experiences because what a user really wants is the thing that they need.
Yep. Well, what's interesting about that is when you even just think about what LLMs look like today, they all largely use the same basic interface, and I know that is not unintentional, right?
Absolutely.
There's something, as you said, for the simplicity of just being able to do the thing I want to do and get the content out as quickly as I can and not overthinking it. Not to say great immersive experiences aren't great and don't serve a purpose, right? But I think to your exact point, it needs to serve a purpose.
Exactly.
Complexity just because we can is not always a recipe for success, right? But complexity where it's helping tell a story in a very engaging and meaningful way is potentially an opportunity.